Ladies and gentlemen, the living Sihaji Master, Sri Michael Owens.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody had a pleasant night's sleep, and if you didn't, I understand. We talked on the inner and outer about a lot of different things. Even though I was up here on the podium, I heard your heartstrings, and I heard many of the things that we'd been talking about. Yesterday, I had mentioned that the New World Order is attempting to turn our educational system into a corporate structure. This reality is something that we are facing nationwide, and they are trying to put a bridle on the free will and individualism of teachers in the classroom, to such an extent that many of our inspired teachers, they are simply losing their enthusiasm when it comes to teaching our children. Well, many miraculous things happen when we come together, and I was glad to hear this morning that President Obama has made a decision to meet with educators tomorrow about the very wave of domination that is coming into our classroom, because many of the unions are standing up saying we have to allow our teachers to teach what's coming from their heart. It cannot come from some corporate dictates where people have no knowledge of what is going on in the classroom. It's that teacher that knows that unique group of children that understand the consciousness of those children. And so our president has heard the need, but he has responsibilities of being tapped into the light and sound too. He just does not have his own free will. He represents such a large group of different diverse consciousness. He has the responsibility of safeguarding the future of the children of all those different groups. And yes, we can agree to disagree, but at the same time, we have to allow others the freedom of expression. It was only 60 years ago, a man in a brown uniform with a funny little mustache said he was going to make a better world. And he started at the teachers first, because he figured the only way in which that he could eradicate individualism is to go at the educational system and our teachers. And our teachers are one of the guardians of democracy and democratic principles. And I don't have to tell you, within your heart and within the context of your memory, there isn't one teacher that you have that didn't stand out, that didn't believe in you and inspired you to become something within yourself better. I wanted to respond to many of the beautiful questions that were given to me before this event. And I wanted to dedicate time to it because the questions were so beautiful. I welded it into my talk today because I thought it was a nice way that when we break bread and we look at each other in the eye and we know that we'll see each other next year, there's always this heartstring where we know that we're going to be missing each other. So one of our participants asked me, he said, you know, when you greet us, you always say old family and friends. How can you respond to that question with a little bit more deliberation? So my response to, I think, a very well thought out question is this: when the way is hard and the road is long and you are tired of being wrong, and there's no song that is sweet, no place of retreat, it is family who will lift you up back upon your feet. When the nights are cold and a biting wind tears at the tatters of your coat, and your head is bare, and you have nowhere to go. It is family who will take you back into the fold. When there is no fire on the hearth or food on the table, no money in the bank, no work or hope, when you cannot take it anymore, it is family who will be there with an open door. When there is joy to share or sorrow to bear, when a wedding or funeral to attend, when a child is born, a lover is lost, a son goes to war. It is family who will be there to share it all in the end. And that is my response to this question. It's one of which that draws us closer together as family. And we've had brothers and sisters who go off to war, and their family too. Many participants worldwide have asked, what does it mean to our spirituality when our country asks us that we must defend it? We must bear arms. We must protect our children. We must protect what's right. We must be righteous. Go outside the box and defend what we know what is right in our heart. And I have something else to respond in regards to that when it comes to family. Because to be a soldier and be on the side of righteousness is quite noble, quite heart-wrenching. And the men and women that have been there, and I say women because they're bearing arms now, they will tell you the only thing that got them back was their humble heart. And so I say to you today, like a soldier on the battlefield of life, I think wistfully of the family who has to live and bear this burden. So far away, those soldiers that I hold dear, they wave from the far horizon. The stretch is endless before me, and I long for the day that they will come back to us. But it always beckons like a hazy dream, clear in the center but blurred at the edges. I cannot grasp it no longer. And no matter how I try to hold on, this soldier who is so far away, he fights on to be near again. So much landscape to cross and so much work to be done, so much courage and forbearance to shoulder, yet he marches on through the vast terrain. What separates us is but an illusion in the wows and wanings of the ambitions of men. The family who seems so far away, it is God that will bring them back here. God's word in the book that they carry beneath their coat. This is their shield. This is their mascot. This is their faith and trust to see their family once again. When all is brought to dust and the family is so far away, the humble heart will always find a way. I would like to ask you to join me in a contemplation, and it's one that will be forthcoming in the newer publications. It's one that I feel is heart-wrenching, and it reminds us how important it is to have the humble heart and to give thanks to those who have been compassionate to us and have rendered us kindness. You are already in the hue. But I want you to start telling your body and mind to relax. Tell your muscles to be at rest. Close your eyes. And listen to the stream of the hue. Look intently and gently into your middle eye. Imagine a sky filled with clouds. These are not ordinary gray clouds. They are pink, blue, and lavender. A halo of golden light surrounds each cloud. Let us enjoy the vision for a minute or two. Now imagine that the clouds are parting, and through them a face begins to appear. Let us give this face the persona of a person or master who you know and love. One that has always been there for you. See that the face is smiling with a beautiful grace, love, and compassion. Give yourself over to the waves of comfort pouring down upon you. Know that you are loved and protected at all times. Stay in the reverie for as long as you like, and know the Father of all loves you deeply. Beauty opens the heart effortlessly, so the pure truth can be easily perceived. Slowly open your eyes. I was asked, how and why is the humble heart the key to our physical, mental, and spiritual survival? I had to conclude yesterday's talk with saying that it is only with the deepest humility that God will enter and speak through the heart of soul. It is only on bended knees that soul will hear God and know God. But what of humility? What does it mean to be humble before God? Many of you here believe yourselves to be humble servants of God, and you are. You are working selflessly toward a common goal. You are all to be highly commended. What we mean by true humility is what you tell yourself as you're working. What do you feel about the work that you do? Is the work enough? Or do you secretly wish or desire recognition, reward, and acknowledgement? Titles are given in the way of truth to distinguish one form of labor from another. Thus we have a chairman, president, vice president, and so forth. A hierarchy establishes order and structure within an organization, and it is necessary for forward momentum. The potential problem within a structured organization can be that of expectation. And often I will hear it from fine souls who work so hard. Why am I not being appreciated? Why isn't my idea being implemented? Why did that person get chosen for that role over me? Each of you are going to have the opportunity for great authority. I promise you. True humility is to serve without thought of receiving, to abandon our own self, to accept without question, to surrender without opinion. It is an abandonment of ego to utterly serve as the most humble of servants. To view the unswept floor and take up a broom, to polish the dirty window, to empty the waste bucket, to do these humble tasks without being asked and to ask nothing in return. As you work within this holy order, go deep within your heart and ask if you're doing this work for the Father of all or for yourself. It is normal to have aspirations and wish to take on more responsibility. You are greatly respected by all of our teachers for that. Make sure your heart is leading you forward, not ego, and the desire for recognition, because you already are recognized. You can't be desiring something that you already have. You have the gems within your own grasp. True humility allows spirit to function within all aspects of your life, from physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It keeps your spiritual blood flowing freely so that no physical or spiritual illness can take root and manifest itself. And if you notice, I said spiritual illness. We are all having to face some downplay or problem physically. That is normal. That does not mean that God does not love us. But spiritual illness is consciousness does not like a humble body, a humble heart. And it literally cannot attach itself to a deeply humble person. I often think about the life of Bernadette of Lourdes. She suffered for 20 years and was mistreated by an older nun that felt that her miracle was just a way to catch attention. Little did that older nun not know, after years of carrying the pain of illness, when Bernadette fell to the floor, she gently drew up her robe and saw how the illness was eating away her body. She fell to tears because she was hard on a person whose heart was simply humble. The nun swore that no one else would take care of Bernadette but herself, and that she dedicated the last days of Bernadette and totally devoted herself to her care. And she said in her own personal testimony, in all the days that she lived, that she never saw such a gentle, humble heart. Do your work without questions or feelings of unappreciation. Father sees all that you're doing. Nothing is missed. And Father sees how and why you're doing it. I, as the living master in a human shell, cannot answer each and every one of you in the way that you would like, with personal attention, as I would like. But this is where your mastership comes forth, knowing that I can't always be there with you physically. My heart is always with you. A true master needs no one to hold their hand and pat them on the shoulder for doing a good job. A true master simply knows their own worth and goes forward in faith and humility to serve the one true God within their own heart. In my days of learning, I often found myself carrying 10, 15 books down the hall, and I revered and loved Bellarippa so much. And he would pass me by in the hallway, and the magnitude of his vibration caused me to drop my books and stumble. He never said hello. He never gave me that daily recognition that I hungered for. I saw him with all these students behind him who I felt were so much smarter than me. But I kept doing the work. And one day when I dropped the books as Bellarippa passed me, I fell into tears, thinking that my humble heart was not being seen. And I saw a shadow so magnanimous behind me that picked up a book that I had dropped. And it was Bellarippa. He gave it to me with a smile and said, "You're deeply loved," and walked away. It was said and asked of me, why was it important for the selected souls who have come here today to be here at this universal retreat? And I can tell you, from the bottom of my heart, I've admired all of you for the sacrifice. Some of you on the inner and outer have given me a helping hand, have given me kindness, have inspired me to be better within myself. Those of you that have come here were handpicked by the Father of all at this point in time because of the unique blend of energetics that each of you represent. You are energetic points of vibration, much like the spiritual vortexes that anchor the earth to divine power. Together you form a matrix in harmony to each other, and this compatibility creates a power grid for spirit to use and anchor best laid plans in this world. Watch what happens in November with the elections. Watch the heart of America taking another turn, saying, maybe it's time that we could put a woman at the helm and put a new face to America. You bring specific talents and characteristics to the table that no one else can bring. This is ordained by Father and has waited for your presence since the day you were born. You are a unique brotherhood established for a specific purpose in this day and time, and you will continue to work together until your unique group mission is fulfilled. It was said and discussed and sent to me, why did the masters practice the simple attitude of the heart? The masters practice humility because it is the sustaining force behind their ability to fulfill their missions and carry the light and sound. Many of you may know the story surrounding Milarepa when he was giving tutelage to Rebus Artars. He was trying to show him how to build a house. But the house actually represented the light and sound. So he asked Rebus Artars to build him a house over there. And then when he saw how the house was built, he said, no, I don't want him over there. I need it over there. Well, after 3 times, Rebus Artars said, look, I've moved this house around 3 times. Milarepa said, you know, I just wanted to make sure that wherever you decide to put it, it's a place that it should be. So Rebus Artars and wanted explanation as to why this occurred. He said, well, the first 3 houses that you built were built with pride. They were built with ego. But that 4th house over there was built with a humble heart. Well, Rebus Artars, in his usual humorous ways, is saying, look, I was just tired. But Milarepa put his hand on his shoulder and said, no, you saw the reason why you had to do it. We had to get to your humble heart in order for you to carry the light and sound. And you never gave up. You persevered through hard times. You are a unique brotherhood. And the masters have seen the power and glory of God. It does not visit the ego of man. The masters of all know this ancient truth. The kingdom of God is won through the actions of the humble heart. The road to God is paved with acts of humility and service to all. When humility is practiced, the power of the Holy Spirit is unleashed within that soul. A humble soul is given the power of an army to establish their goals when the ego is at bay. There was this one Irish monk that I greatly admired. And yes, he was a saint. And he was in charge of feeding the monastery. That was a big job. Because after 18 hours of doing the Gregorian chant and working, even if these men had bread and water and a pinch of salt, it still tastes good at the end of that day. Well, this particular monk was pretty good at fishing. And the abbot, after so many years, wanted to know how and why this particular monk was able to bring in so much fish. So he attached to him a young novice so the young novice could say, look, we went there. Well, he would send the young novice off for small little errands as he went and prayed along the seashore. And the young novice started to realize that he was being sent in a different direction because that monk didn't want to see what he was doing. Well, one day the young novice decided that I'm not going to do that, what he asked me to do today. I'm going to be watching him. I'm not going to stand. I'm going to hide behind the rocks. He won't know I'm there. Well, the old monk realized it was about time for him to understand. And as the young novice was watching the older monk pray along the seashore, he saw a walrus come up on the rocks. Well, the walrus was dropping fish in the basket as he was praying. The young novice said, am I going to tell that to the abbot? He's not going to believe that. So after so many years that the novice decided to stay with him, he finally came clean and told the abbot, he's not doing the fishing himself. It's really a walrus that's dropping the fish in the basket. The abbot knew that this young novice couldn't be lying, but he thought that the story was fantastic. After the monk translated, and many years after, the novice would go to the shoreline and leave the basket, and the walrus still dropped in fish. And he'd take it back to the monastery. The humble heart can create miracles in our life. And this monk took no credit for what he was able to do for other men that he admired. It was just another example of what many great men and women have done before us to feed other people, to be kind to other people, to serve one another. Later, this monk was given sainthood because, well, when they put him basically in this cave structure, his body did not corrupt. The young novice said, he's not deteriorating. The abbot said, and you know what, in modern terms, now I don't know what they'd say in the 11th century, but it was like, say what? The body is not deteriorating. He looks like the day we put him in there. Well, the abbot said, well, I gotta see this. He went down to where they bury the monks and saw the body was not corrupting. So he finally wrote to the Pope and said, we got this body not corrupting and everybody's talking about it. The Pope said, look, let's just put this to rest and give him sainthood. He said, that's okay with me. What do you want to do with the body? He said, let's move it someplace. It's causing controversy. I could see and imagine that this old monk was up somewhere in heaven laughing his heart out. Because he knew, even though those kind acts that you think go unnoticed, at one point in time, everyone sees. At one point in time, God of itself brings it to the forefront. That humble heart, it has a way of taking control of our life contract. It begins to transform our life. Many of the masters waited upon God with bowed head for the touch of it upon their shoulders. Even though their faces were cast into the mud by those who were jealous of the inspiration that they had in their selflessness. Even when they fell under the whip of oppression, and some died by the sword 1,000 times. Yet they rose time and again by the strength of their own humility and faith in God. It was more than perseverance that saved them. It was the nakedness as they stood before God without shame, without remorse. To truly stand before the Almighty is to cast off self-consciousness and to allow the light to strip away all defenses. With God, you don't need an excuse. Just heart. Just patient trust. And that patience is born of the deepest humility. These masters have learned through trials, and some stumble over the test in their path. The ego is a formidable opponent. It doesn't want to give up. It does have purpose. It is a part of the motivational psyche that we have, but it cannot reign over our heart. You know, when I was reviewing the works of the Catholic Church, and I have to say, with a certain amount of pride, with a certain amount of admiration for you, I have been able to open doors and read some of the old stories that the church have allowed dust to fall upon. And I said, these stories are so beautiful. Why aren't they not sharing? An example of it comes with Psalms of the Prophet, the crown of thorns. But there is this love story. I've yet to explore it and wonder how I can talk about it and bring out the full spiritual metal of it. Two lovers who were Roman. Sounds like a movie, I know. It came to me that way when I was reading it under candlelight. Candlelight. I'm not talking metaphorically either. Boy, was I sneezing from all the dust. These two Roman lovers, at the time in the outset of Christianity, where one was forced to more or less show their pagan tribulations before the gods and where they had to sacrifice. A young Roman noblewoman was inspired by the elocution and eloquence of St. Peter. He took her under his wing because he saw such purity and humble heart. And she took that love and shared it with her family. She was engaged to a very important Roman family whose obligations to the emperor were very high. She stopped sacrificing on the feast days, and her fiancé, broken-hearted, saying, "Why are you not following Roman law?" And she said, "I found another way. Because God does not want us to sacrifice animals. He wants us to give and to have a humble heart." Her betrothed became jealous of her love of Christianity and reported her. He thought that that would turn her heart and get her back into the fold. She refused to conform. And what happened is she was arrested. Being of noble blood, they were able to talk to the magistrate and persuade him, if she decided to sacrifice, would he spare her from going to the arena? He said yes. So he asked her in so many words, would you conform? And she said, inasmuch as I respect other people, I cannot give up the faith of my humble heart. Begrudgingly, the magistrate had to send her to the arena. It broke her betrothed's heart. He was standing there so betrayed and so hurt, he did not know what to do, because the one thing that he loved the most was going to the arena. There were many ways to die in the arena. Well, on the day in which that she was placed into the arena, it was customary at times for the women to be stripped of all clothing. This woman was so picturesque that the Roman crowd could not see a lion consuming such a beautiful body. And the shining faith that came from her face even shook the very being of the crowd that often enjoyed, of course, nature having its best. So it was decided that the animals would not consume her, that they would behead her. In the midst of that decision, when she bowed her head, the Roman crowd was so divided about this. They had never seen such faith. When the deed was done, what poured from her body was not blood, but milk that smelled of roses. Her betrothed grieved, fell in depression for days, and she peered before him and said, I must go now to be with my Father. And after the experience that he had, while in sleep, he woke up thinking it was only a dream. What was laying next to him in his bed was one red rose. The story comes straight from the library of the Roman Catholic Church. Such deeds of the humble heart have laid testimony to a humanity that can inspire others to do good. We can assist our family and friends and neighbors through our humble heart. But it's by our example. It's how we conduct ourselves. Nothing speaks louder than our actions. We can preach from the pulpit of our church with impassioned exaltations, but the proof will still be in the pudding. When a preacher removes his cleric attire and goes about his daily routine, is he kind to others? Does he allow the elderly standing behind him to take his place in line? Does he even notice their presence? It is through simple acts of kindness and courtesy that we show others how to develop a humble heart. When a neighbor complains to us, and Lord knows that can happen so much, do we listen or do we argue? The first response of the ego is to defend at all costs, right or wrong. It does not want to be confronted. It will talk back and not listen. Show others your humility by your willingness to listen. Then tell them you appreciate their concerns. We might be gritting our teeth, but we got to get there. This not only opens the way for communication, but demonstrates kindness and humility. And there are all sorts of unusual things that happen. When I first moved into one of the neighborhoods I was living, an older gentleman came up to me and said, "We'd like to make you captain of Neighborhood Watch." The same racial. I said, "It is because I'm the only black person in the neighborhood and that anybody that might be robbing might be me?" Well, I get this long drop. Well, I said, "Well, okay, I'll take the job." He said, "I'll tell everybody in the neighborhood we'll all feel now a lot more safe." Well, I had to look at it with humor. I had to look at it. It just showed our humanness. I had to look at it with a certain humble heart because, he meant well. So I was captain of Neighborhood Watch for 5 years. And I had this one gentleman. I don't know what his roots were, but I'd wave every day while I was out there with my roses. And I would go and kind of do the hand wave. He didn't know what was coming at him, but he kind of felt a little funny every time I did that. He said, "What's going on with that guy?" He just kind of looked at me. Well, I did this for 3 years. He passed me by. And I said to myself, I'll just keep doing this. This is making me feel good. I don't care if he doesn't grin at me or not. So one day I'm picking the roses and gathering them and pruning and everything. He comes by and I do my hind wave. "How you doing, neighbor?" Well, he's looking and he doesn't realize it, but his hand is involuntarily raising. And he's looking at his hand going, "Why am I doing that?" Well, a couple weeks passes by, he's still raising his hand and he had to stop. And he said, "I want to tell you how much I appreciate you saying and acknowledging me, even though I might not like you." I said, "Well, you know what? It doesn't matter to me whether you like me or not. What matters to me is if I can give that love." He said, being an elder, he said, "Son, shake my hand." And he became a good friend in the neighborhood ever since. Sometimes it takes a couple years, and sometimes it can be overnight, but that humble heart, it always prevails. Because in every walk of life, in every culture, people want love. And when it comes from a humble heart, people see the sincerity. They see the tear going down your eye when they're talking about their struggle. And you touch their hand and shoulder, and you just listen. And you feel that string of the light and sound reaching their heart to theirs. They appreciate it. And you've lifted them up. Some of you have early flights, and I always have a tendency to look at my watch. I rented I was writing very extensively for this, and I wanted it on paper for each of you to read, to ruminate. There is an exercise I thought that would be very fitting. Not to give closure. One never gives closure to the heart. One never gives closure to the gentle embrace of the love that's in this room. But it is an exercise I felt that I will make the time to get out through email to our administration. We're already in the hue. We're already hearing the heartstrings. We're already hearing the angelic, celestial music. I need you to close your eyes but a second. Look into your middle eye. And see a visual of the inner master. We're all working in a beautiful garden of lavender and roses. The inner master is giving you a bouquet of these roses and says, this represents your humble heart. Smell the fragrance of harmony, peace, and universal love. Now see this bouquet being absorbed into your heart. The mist of its fragrances are surrounding like an angelic hello. And in the name of God, in its angelic hierarchies, bless yourself and bless this humble heart and bless those who have contributed to the garden of your life. Give it the freedom and love it deserves. God will open the coffers of your spiritual and material abundance. Spirit will allow us to give peace and comfort to those in need. And most of all, this humble heart will make you more like the Father of all. You have my darshan. You have my heartfelt appreciation. I always feel and bear witness to the mounting vibration of what it is for us to be together each year. And I'm working so very hard to be totally independent so that I can move about the earth more freely. But I can say, as living teacher, that I can't tell you how much I don't appreciate making my life so beautiful. And I give thanks for all of you, for your kind service, your compassion to others, and most of all, your faith. It's typical that I raise my hand in acknowledgement of the CAG. The gifts that you've been given are already there before you. And the raised hand is only to acknowledge how beautiful you've made my life. How beautiful you've made the life of others. And how we have held the embrace of beautiful memories that move on before us and make the way because yet we move on, people will live onward in our dream. Blessed be.
So Casimir, let me talk to you just a little. So I think it's best that you just tell the participants that things are underway because we're already working on it. Percy's intentions are good, but he's kind of gone around the circle here.
Yes.
Okay. So just tell them. I've been communicating with OK and Victor about this last month, and I talked to Victor again last night.
We will
So
have
it's just out of respect to
the
let it go the
darshan
right way, not
where you can
this
meet
way.
Sri Michael
But you can tell the
in
participants
person.
that's already being
And
addressed.
he will also
And,
sign one
But rather than
book
getting, when you
for
get
each of us.
everybody working from different
Once
directions,
again,
it's not
Yes.
please, no
causes
pictures.
confusion. So I sat
or
with
going
Victor
behind
last
the
night and talked to him
desk.
about where do we stand
This
with
is for the
all this
protection
and
of Sri
what do we
Michael.
do. So
Thank you
if
for
you just tell them
understanding.
it's not forgotten, that we're working on
And
it.
Dottie,
And then-
Because so many didn't know that they have to
say it so I can
post
hear
the
it.
hero in internet.
Okay, Dottie's just going to talk
There's a
from there.
communication problem.
Yeah.
This has
I just want to
been
thank everybody
sent out more than
for
once
spending time
to
with
the
us.
Yes,
membership.
I know.
So this is what I talked to Victor about last
You're
night,
coming to the
and
retreat, and it's such a joy
well,
to
let's
be with
just
all of you. I want to thank everybody who worked so hard to put this retreat together. Cynthia, Jan, Prince, John Allen, Rich Price. Rich, thank you so much for all you did this weekend. Nancy Sims, I hope I didn't forget anybody. I do, I apologize. Dave Jenner, thank you all. And I'm just so glad all of you spent your time. Paula. Paula, last night was wonderful, and you guys did a wonderful job. It was fun. It was really fun. Thank you.